What's up, Attack on Titan fans? This time we'll talk about one of the best written fiction stories out there, and I want to make it very clear that I'm not just talking about the anime genre here. And since it's really that good, I want to emphasize that I highly recommend it to every anime enthusiast. Obviously, spoiler warning. If you're one of those who haven't seen the series yet, shame on you. You better tune out here. For everyone else, let's get started. As everyone knows, it's not uncommon that when you watch the series a second time, or even a third time, or read the manga repeatedly, you keep discovering little details, clues, connections, and interpretations that you missed the first time through. Recently, I decided to watch the series again myself. Previously, I had only read the monthly manga to the end and watched the anime once. While watching through the first season, I already noticed a lot of things that I didn't notice years ago when I first read or watched it. Especially during one particular scene within the later episodes of season 1, I had a huge realization that I wanted to talk about in this video. To be exact, I'm talking about the first encounter between Levi's squad, who protected Eren at the time, and the female Titan. During one of their expeditions outside the walls, the Survey Corps find themselves in flight from a particularly unusual Titan, the female Titan. The female Titan had already struck early in the expedition and eliminated a number of soldiers. With this, they knew of the danger that this Titan posed. While Levi's squad tries to escape through the forest on horses, the female Titan runs after them. Levi's squad was also aware of the fact that it was probably after Eren. While the main squad tries to get away, some other comrades behind them try to stop it without any success. Some of Levi's squad members suggest attacking the Titan together. Eren also wants to go the route of an all-out fight, but when Levi orders the squad to just rely on the horses and keep going without looking back, his squad accepts the clear order with immediate effect, while Eren has an internal struggle about the right decision. Should he turn into a Titan and fight, or continue to watch his comrades being executed behind him? While Levi's squad then tries to convince Eren to trust their decision on Levi's behalf, he remains full of doubt about their decision and continues to argue with them until he's almost ready to get into the fight, until Levi suddenly intervenes. Surprisingly though, he tells Eren that he's not wrong, that he's allowed to fight if he considers it the right decision. Levi sees Eren as an absolutely untamable monster, regardless of his Titan abilities, so he simply tells Eren that it's the squad's experience that sets them apart from him. Levi then goes on to state the two possible options. He can choose to only believe in himself and rush into battle, or believe in his comrades and follow the squad. But Levi then emphasizes that he himself doesn't know what the right decision is, that he never knew, that simply no one knows what the results of a decision will be. Keep these phrases in mind because they will remain relevant throughout the story. So Eren, after shortly hesitating, decides to trust his comrades and follow their lead. Even if he obviously didn't do it out of rationality, but simply because he found it easier to cling to the thought that there were people on whom he could rely. What is interesting here is that Levi does not tell him that they will soon reach a trap that has been set for capturing a Titan. It is not outright stated that he knew about it, but as one of the leaders of the Survey Corps, we can very strongly assume that he did. That's also why he probably screams at Eren that he has to hurry with the decision because there's no time shortly before actually reaching it. I feel like he wanted to not only train Eren's mind, but also see what his decision would be between trusting in himself and trusting in others. Otherwise he would have outright ordered, or rather threatened Eren, as he usually does, because he knows that Eren won't easily submit, to do what he wants, or at least he would have told him that they have set up a plan to capture the Titan in order to get him to comply. Although at first it seemed that the faith Eren put in his friends would be rewarded, we all unfortunately know how the chain of events unfolded after that. While Eren later looks back regretfully on his decision and ifs and buts plague his conscience, Levi must also see his own words painfully confirmed. You never know what the consequences of a decision will be, positive or negative. By the way, I love how Levi's facial expression is drawn here in the manga. While the art of the initial chapters of Attack on Titan often seems rough compared to some other mangas, here you can see exactly how important it was to the mangaka to subtly convey Levi's emotions. At that point it really stood out to me. Levi doesn't blame himself, doesn't lament the death of his entire squad. His face isn't contorted in any way, but his eyes speak volumes about the character. When I saw it for the first time, I honestly thought to myself that these are the eyes of a character in which extraordinary sadness resides, but through experience and jadedness has the strength to be the master of his emotions. The better I felt then, when he returned the favor sufficiently and made the Titan shed some tears instead after saving Eren. About 2 or 3 years later, after the release of the fittingly titled Chapter 28, Choices and Consequences, I read the released Levi spin-off manga and shortly after saw the accompanying OVA special. It was a good idea to get to experience both versions because there were quite some differences between the manga and the anime version. Anyway, to be honest, when I read the Levi special at the time, I didn't think about the scene I previously summarized. Probably because of the relatively long time that had passed in between. I'm not making excuses though, I should have been able to connect the dots. But I was all the more entertained on my second run. But now to the actual matter. The Levi manga was titled Attack on Titan No Regrets and was based on the visual novel A Choice with No Regrets. It serves as a prequel to the main story. Already in the title the reference to the scene between him and Eren is recognizable. To the plot. In the underground under the royal capital is a rundown city where the lowest class of society hangs around. There, right at the beginning of the spin-off, we see Levi and his friends Isabel and Farlan fleeing from the Survey Corps using the 3D maneuver gear they've stolen. Unfortunately for Levi, his friends are caught and used as means to force him to surrender, and so he does. Irvin recognizes Levi's incredible abilities and gives him and his friends a choice: get locked up or worse for their crimes or join the Survey Corps. Levi decides to rather make a deal. Later we learn that Levi and his friends, who by the way, he clearly loves like family, especially Isabel, whom he views as a little sister, had already made their own plan. An influential and wealthy political adversary of Irvin named Lobov has warned them that the Survey Corps will be after them and that they should allow themselves to be captured and then join the Survey Corps. Once at the barracks, they are to steal certain documents and bring them to him. And if the opportunity presents itself, they are to kill Irvin as well. They will be rewarded in cash and the right to live in the royal capital. Levi wants nothing to do with it, but Farlan persuades him to agree and explains what he intends to do. Knowing that the client would most likely not keep his word, but would order them to be killed next as a reward to cover the tracks, they plan to steal the documents for themselves and then use them to blackmail their client. So Levi doubtfully agrees to Farlan's plan, but insists on wanting to kill Irvin. For months they endure the routines and training of the Survey Corps as new members while Farlan sneaks into Irvin's room. But during the whole time, he doesn't find anything until the day the Survey Corps go on an expedition outside the walls, including Levi's squad. Farlan does not want to leave the safety of the walls, but suspects that Irvin might be carrying the documents they are supposed to get with him. Levi, trying to calm them, confidently promises Isabel and Farlan that he will protect them from the Titans. Isabel trusts him while Farlan has his doubts but rides along anyway. By the way, this is the first time Irvin's formation, which we already knew from the main story, is used. So the expedition begins. During the first day, Levi's squad already encounters an abnormal Titan and successfully kills it. Nothing else worth mentioning happens and the Survey Corps reach their first base, the castle. There they spend the night and rest. A new day starts and they continue the expedition. But then a huge storm begins to rage. Heavy rain and dense fog make the terrain absolutely unpredictable and Titan attacks unforeseeable until they would already be too close to properly react, if at all. Levi, however, sees this storm as the only opportunity to approach Irvin unnoticed and do what he is there for. He sees the risk in going alone, but in the end decides to do so despite the fact, as he believes it would be the most effective way. Farlan argues with him that he should keep a cool head and wait until the fog lifts, but Levi sees the risk that Irvin could be eaten by a Titan by then, and their mission would have failed in case he has the documents with him. However, just as Farlan asked Levi to trust him when they accepted the job, Levi is now asking Farlan to trust him in return. This leads to Farlan agreeing with his decision, smiling. The last thing they say to him is that he should not die and return to them safely, and off goes Levi. And once more, we are painfully aware of how Levi's situation developed. While trying to reach Irvin, he notices Titan footprints right next to him pointing in the direction of his friends. When he suspects that Isabel and Farlan could be in danger and rides back, it is already too late. Both have been cruelly killed by the Titans. He exacted the appropriate retaliation here as well, just as he did with Annie later on. While in the anime, he put a very particular end to the one abnormal Titan that killed his comrades, in the manga he massacred multiple Titans which killed his friends. The fog lifts and Irvin reaches the scene. When Levi attacks him, he shows Levi the documents and reveals that he already knew about their plan. For the next part, I want to specifically refer to the anime version because I think it does a better job in terms of the lesson about choices that Levi learns from Irvin. Irvin sees Levi's remorse and tells him that no one can foretell the outcome of a decision, and that the regret would only cloud his future decisions, which might eventually lead to others deciding for him. Oh, the irony, Irvin. Oh, the irony. You may not like the outcome of the decision you just made yourself, but about that in a moment. Impressed by Irvin and persuaded by his words, Levi decides to follow him. The OVA ends with Levi reflecting that he doesn't know, that he never knew, whether he chooses to believe in himself or to believe in his trusted friends. In the end, no one knows what will happen. However, he will never regret, quote, this choice. He must be referring to following Irvin's vision and fighting for the advancement of humanity. And that was the summary of the OVA. I hope I didn't take too long with that. As you probably have already realized, his concluding remarks in the OVA mirror those he gives to Eren during the female Titan encounter. Levi evidently spoke from experience because he has already been in a very similar situation to Adam's. At first, he kept relying on the judgment of a trusted friend and only got involved in the deal through Farlan's persuasion. That was the first step. Then Levi tried to go the other route, relying on his own judgment during a crucial moment, which was the final nail in their coffin. It's like he says, they both meant well, but the absolutely unpredictable consequences and the far-reaching domino effect of their respective decisions led to their early demise. Eren also tried to rely on his comrades first, which led to their death. Then he tried to believe in his own strength and fight, which led to his defeat and kidnapping. So you could say that he also made the wrong decision at both moments, at least if you only consider the relatively short-term consequences. Going further into the future though, one could argue in all sorts of directions, given the massive butterfly effect Eren and Levi have on the Attack on Titan world building. But now to the next point. I already mentioned that Erwin did not necessarily benefit from the lesson about choices he taught Levi. When he himself hesitates during the battle against the Beast Titan, Levi puts into practice the lesson that Life and Erwin painfully taught him and takes the burden upon himself. The burden of making an enormously difficult choice and sending Erwin and his comrades to certain death so that he can eliminate the Beast Titan. And die he does. Quite obviously, even the calculating Erwin actually did not know what the consequences of his decisions would be. But seriously, Erwin was my favorite character and his death was quite tragic in my eyes. Later in the series, Levi proves one more time that he always carries the lesson with him. When Zeke lures him into a trap, turns all his comrades into titans without exception, and makes them attack him, Zeke hastily assumes that he has won. He accuses Levi of relying too much on his strength and the assumption that he has sufficient time, that Levi also mistakenly assumed he had choices. But Levi shows him that he can always select between different choices even if they sometimes seem unchoosable, and kills all the titans and thus his own comrades without hesitating too long so that he can successfully take Zeke down. I'd like to end the video right now, but Levi goes through all of this only to make the worst decision he's ever made shortly after and decides to give Zeke just the right opportunity to almost kill him. Short rant incoming. I'd be lying if I said that I liked the way this went. Not because Levi was crippled for life and Zeke was perfectly fine after, but this key situation seemed a bit forced and implausible in my opinion. Let me put it this way. Betting his life on the naive assumption that his nemesis Zeke wouldn't potentially commit suicide in order to at least take Levi with him to his death, where he's facing a pretty grim fate anyway in case Levi just drags him along, doesn't exactly show witty planning on Levi's part when he planted a bomb next to him and gave the control to his enemy. This looks especially dumb considering that the Titan shifters can potentially survive ridiculous amounts of damage. Just look at Headless Reiner. Well, that's the end of my rant. Back to the main topic. To wrap up the video, when I first read the manga / watched the anime, I didn't even notice this repetitive display of Levi's lesson about choices, but I was able to put it all together when I revisited it. As a result, you gain a whole new appreciation for the writing, so it doesn't feel like a simple repetition, but rather like you've unlocked additional content. Another related little thing that I've touched on before, but which struck me repeatedly, is the way Isayama drew Levi's eyes in moments of pain. Since Levi is not someone who gives in to his grief, it is subtly shown to us when he once again finds himself in an indescribably cruel situation which is anything but easy for him. In 3 of the 4 situations mentioned, this is the case. However, when Erwin and his companions perished, things were different because, in my opinion, he was 100% focused on killing the totally unknown and extremely dangerous Beast Titan, so that the lives of his comrades and most importantly, Erwin's life weren't lost in vain. And that's it, guys. As I said at the beginning of the video, I think you'll notice a lot more than the example I picked by watching or reading through the story several times. But I feel like I fanboyed about Attack on Titan enough in just one video. So please click the like button if you were as unaware of the details as I was when I first saw the series, and subscribe for more Attack on Titan videos in the future. Until next time, peace out.